am going to go ahead and get started with the topic that I want to discuss with everybody today. It's a mindset topic. It's something I want you guys to think about, and you can find it in the crux of the topic. You can find in the book Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't read the book Think and Grow Rich, I strongly advise you to read that book. Not because I want you to get rich, although it would be nice if you got rich, if we all got rich, but because there are so many mindset tricks in that book, and it has so much more to do with life than just making money. It just does, and it's really a book that completely changed my life for the good, just in the way that I think, the way that I approach things, and things like that. Yeah, Kara, it's honestly, it changed my life. It's an amazing book. I purchased, what I did is I purchased a bunch of copies, and anytime like that one of my friends or family members or someone, I've given it away in court to parties before if I sense that it's someone that could benefit from it. Anyway, what I want to talk about in the book is Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book. He wrote it way back right after the Great Depression, which was obviously one of the craziest times that this country has ever faced. 2020 is probably getting close to being right up there. But and what he did was for 20 or 25 years, he went around and he interviewed the most successful people in the country right there, or in the country at that time. And he put together, he did this for 20 to 20, I think it was 20 years. He did this before he even wrote the book, devoted his life to it, and then wrote this book of all of these ways that these people got successful over time. And so much of it had to do with the mind. And he is one reason. I've listened to his seminars. You can find seminars on iTunes. You could probably find a ton of them on YouTube. I've listened to him over and over and over again, a ton of his seminars. He has a very distinct and somewhat humorous voice. It's like an old man voice, but the guy's brilliant. And I have adopted so many of his strategies with regard to mindset. And one of the things that I want to talk about today, it's a quick topic, but it's something that I want you guys to all kind of get your minds going and think about. And what it is in one of the chapters, it's actually the last chapter in the book. He calls them the 6 ghosts, but basically what he's referring to, he explains later in a chapter that he's referring to the 6 fears. So they're the 6 main fears that human beings have that are holding them back. And he explains that there are some other fears, but most of those other fears can be categorized under these 6 fears. Okay. And the interesting thing about them is, or basically the way that he explains it is, and what we're going to do is I'm going to go through these 6 fears for you. And I'm kind of going to explain to you and draw attention to how they raise their ugly head in custody cases. Okay. Because I think what I did when I was going through my custody case was I was reading the book at that time for, I think, the second time. And I came across the chapter of the 6 fears, and I started relating it to my life. And I was thinking, holy shit, like this really has a lot to do with a lot of the stuff that I'm going through at this time. So I wanted to share it with you guys because you can't, Napoleon Hill's theory, and it's a smart theory. I adopt the theory. His theory is that you cannot overcome something, and you cannot, quote, beat something if you don't identify it, right? You can't overcome the hurdle. You can't overcome the contest. You can't beat the enemy, whatever it is. You can't do that unless you identify it. And he explains that in this chapter with regard to these fears, that if you cannot identify them, you cannot overcome them, right? And the problem with them is that most of these, actually all of these fears, are usually present in your subconscious. So they're not even present in the conscious part of your brain where you're actively knowing that that fear is the culprit and what is basically causing you to feel or behave in a certain way. Okay, but I want you to think of this list that we're about to talk about. And I simply want you, and you can do it while I'm talking here today, and then I simply want you, if you can maybe take notes, or watch this replay, and then think about them over the next few days, maybe the next couple of weeks. Try to think about how they rear their ugly head and how they trip you up in your case, how they may cause you to feel a certain way, how they may cause you to behave a certain way. And then that way, like I said, the first part you have to do is identify it. And once you identify it, then you're going to be able to come to grips with them more, and you're going to be able to understand exactly why and how the stuff that's happening to you is happening to you with regard to fear. Okay. Now he explains, and it's the truth, that fear is simply a state of mind. That's all it is. It's a state of mind. There's nothing saying that if this happens, you have to be afraid of it, or, that you have to be afraid of it. It's all a state of mind. And the beauty of the state of mind that I always talk about in the program is that you can control it. It's one of the only things that you can control all the time. It's one of the only things that you have complete privacy of, right? The only thing that, if you are disciplined enough and tough enough and knowledgeable enough, it's the only thing that you can protect from every single other person on earth, right? I think, I can't remember the name. I can't remember the guy's name, which is a shame because I'm a huge boxing fan. The Hurricane. He went to, and I'm pretty sure, I hope I'm not mixing this story up, but the cool thing about his story, Hurricane, I can't remember his name, and it sucks because I am a big boxing fan. It's just for some reason I'm drawing a blank right now, and I don't want to take time to think about it. But he went to jail for something that he did not do. And he served a long prison sentence while he was in jail. And I think eventually what happened, the evidence came out, he ended up being exonerated. And I'm sorry if I'm screwing up parts of this story, but you want to check out the story. And he explained the whole time when he was in prison, he didn't let Hurricane Carter. Yeah, Paul, thank you. He didn't like sway away from his beliefs. He didn't sway away from his religion, like nothing at all while he was serving this prison sentence. Okay. He stayed sane. He continued to do good work. He continued to be a good person. And one of the things that he said when he got out of prison, someone asked him, how could you continue to do all this stuff? How could you, how could you not be, he didn't have any like resentment towards anybody when he got out. He like was just the same way he was when he got in. And he told everybody, he said they can take, they can put me in jail. They can lock me up. They can take away my freedom. They can dictate when and how I eat. They can dictate when and how I drink. They can do everything in their power. But the one thing they cannot do is touch my mindset. And they cannot touch the way that I think. I am permitted to think how I want to think every moment of the day. And that's what he did. And that's how he kept himself sane through all of this. And I know it's not, although it probably seems like as bad as a prison sentence, your cases are very similar. Okay. And that's why I want to go through these fears with you, because it's very important. Once you, like I said, once you acknowledge the culprit, then eliminating the triggers and controlling your mindset and beating that culprit is going to be a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to get through these these 6 fears. I'm going to just kind of give you my take on how they raise their head and screw up things in a custody case and how they make you feel crazy. And then, like I said, you can do your own thinking here when I'm talking and then come back to this later or come back to your notes or whatever. Okay. The first one is, and he explains that he lists these in order of basically the first to appear in people. I'm pretty sure that's how he explains it. And the first one is the fear of poverty. Okay. If you think about it, one of the biggest fears in a custody case is attorney's fees, court costs, child support, like everything. And a lot of people will say, that, well, money isn't everything, money, and it's not. Money's certainly not everything. But the fear of poverty raises its ugly head with human beings daily. And when you're talking about a custody case with regard to the legal fees involved, with regard to the fear of immediate poverty from having to pay whatever retainer you have to pay, with regard to, complete poverty, draining your retirement maybe to litigate a case, you know, paying attorney's fee after attorney's fees after attorney's fees and just continuing to fight year after year after year. It is a very common fear that would raise its head in a custody case, is the fear of poverty. Okay, so think about that one when it comes up, and know how it, and identify how it's triggering you, and maybe how you can take control of that. Okay. The second one, another one that's very common in life in general and in custody cases, is the fear of criticism. Okay. Criticism from our friends, criticism from the family, our families, criticism from the community in general. You know, well, what are people, what, they're going to think I'm a horrible parent. You know, if I don't have, you know, if I only have every other weekend with my child, these people are going to think that I'm a horrible parent. You know, if I'm getting divorced, like, what's the community going to think? What are my friends going to think? What are they going to say? You know, and then God forbid it happens and you get criticized, and then you think, oh, see, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. And it's one of the 6 fears that you need to pay attention to, because you cannot let that dictate your next move. Your next move is your next move. If you're living in fear of what someone else is going to say about you, then you're living their life, not yours. Okay? The third one is fear of ill health. And you might think, well, how does this one, like, how does this one relate to a custody case? It does. It does. You know, you're going through this. Okay. What happens if you know, when you're doing this, you know, you're wasting all of this time on this case, and, you know, the fear of ill health creeps in, because we all have it, especially nowadays with the pandemic going on. What happens if you get sick and you can't even, you know, you can't even enjoy it, or you can't fight the battle, or you can't enjoy your kids, or your kids get sick, right? It's a big one. It's a big one today, regardless of how you feel about the pandemic and COVID-19 and everything like that. It still is, the fear of ill health is still in the back of your mind. Okay. And it's not as relatable to custody cases as other ones, but it still is. Okay. The next one, it's a huge one in custody cases. It's the fear of loss of love. Okay. The loss of love of your ex, if you still, you know, care about that person. The loss of love of your family. Most importantly, the loss of love from your children. That's the biggest one. Right? Sometimes we do things, sometimes we say things, even with regard to discipline with the children. Sometimes we let the fear of loss of love of them dictate how we punish them and how we discipline them and how we act as a parent. And we can't do that. We cannot do that. Okay? Reverse of that. What about you thinking that they are experiencing the loss of love of you? If you're trying, you know, your damnedest to have them as much as possible, and you're thinking, shit, they're not going to see, they're not going to see it. They think I don't love them. You know, they think I don't care about them. It's definitely something else you have to watch for. Okay. Number 5 is the fear of old age. The fear of old age. And this creeps in when you're battling this custody dispute, you know, month after month and year after year. You have to be thinking in the back of your head. I know I did. Am I wasting like my best years with my kids? Are my kids gonna, you know, turn into adults and leave the nest, and I'm gonna be older, and I'm gonna miss out on this whole entire childhood with them? Okay. It's another one you have to be concerned about. And then finally, the last one, it kind of relates to that, but it's more of an extreme, and it's even more prevalent in other areas of your life, is the fear of death, the fear of loss of life. You know, if I get sick and old, or if I something would happen to me, you know, God forbid, like I didn't get the chance to do what I wanted to do. You know, I didn't get the chance to experience what I wanted to experience with them. Okay. What I've tried to do in a lot of other areas in my life is any fear of death that I have had, which I've been successful in limiting that fear, and I'll tell you how. But any death that I have had, instead of making it a fear, I've used it as a motivation. It's mortality. It's called mortality motivation. Knowing that you know that you might not be around tomorrow. So what are you going to do today? You know, how do you want to feel? But even more than what you want to, what this is the way that I use it. Even more than what do I want to do today? Because tomorrow, like I might not wake up. How do I want to feel today? Like, what do I want to have going on in my mind today? Right? Instead of like, oh my God, you know, I'm going to die soon, or oh my God, I might, be getting older soon. Well, how do you want to feel today? Instead of holy crap, like this is scaring me, and then like bottle everything up and like stop, you know, or making decisions in your life or in your case, they're just stupid, you know, or not taking the time to work on your attitude and your mindset. Like Hurricane Carter said, it's the only thing on earth that you have complete control over, that no one else can get in there unless you let them. Okay. So those were the six fears. And again, if you have not read that book, I strongly recommend you reading that book. And again, if you have no interest in thinking and growing rich, you will think and grow rich in other areas of your life just by reading through that legendary book. I mean, it's been around for what, 80 or 90 years now, something like that. People still highly recommend it and use it every day. Like there are people that I know who read a little bit of it every single day. And I actually started to listen to it on my audiobook when I like go on bike rides and runs and stuff, just because like I can continue to remember everything that he recommends. But those are the six fears. Think about how those rear their ugly heads. Like I said, hopefully you were doing that now, and then later do it, but then also start to try during the day, try to catch yourself the way that you're feeling or the way that you react to something, and see if you're doing it because of one of those fears. Okay. And then if you are, you need to remember that it's just a state of mind. It's just a state of mind.